Hello, hello, it's Memento, and look at this goofy outfit. Just kidding. Sunflowers are really important to Danchi days, and quite honestly, I have a lot to say about Danchi days, so let's get into it. So first things first, I don't think I've ever played a game that has left me feeling more stumped than Danchi days. But let me take it back for a second. This one requires a little bit of backstory. Back in December of 2024, I participated in my very first Steam Next Fest. I was still new to making YouTube videos, and as a result, I didn't realize some of the demos would go away after the week was up. I thought that a lot of games launched their demos and kept them up after Steam Next Fest, like it was a big demo launch day. Unfortunately, Danchi Days happened to be one of those demos. So I lived with the regret of not being able to film it, wondering if it would just be a game that was lost to time for me. Well, skip ahead about 6 months, it's now June of 2025, and this is my redemption arc as I find out that Danchi Days will be part of the ongoing Steam Next Fest. So of course I downloaded the demo right away and I got to filming. And what I was met with is a game that has left me truly puzzled. So first, let's go through the tutorial. The opening tutorial is nothing short of adorable, as your grandmother teaches you how to investigate and sense the world around you. It's a very simple concept, but one that I found cute, and it made me think, this game is meant for younger kids. It's full of cute minigames, childhood friends, and the investigation that comes with a child's imagination. It left me feeling a sense of deja vu for days long since past when I would use the world around me to tell creative stories. One of those times that you really see it is when you're just splashing around in the mud. I'm like, wow, this truly is embodying childlike wonder. The tutorial left me thinking this was the sort of game that kids would be more likely to pick up, and any adults that played it would enjoy it because of its simplicity. It's a time capsule for something that many of us have experienced in our lives, or it's something that many of us might long for and want to revisit. So the tutorial left me charmed, even if I was finding it to be very unexpected. I thought the game would be more along like Cozy Life Sim, and I didn't expect it to be more along the lines of, honestly, I keep thinking of it like a Tamagotchi type game, even though it's not necessarily similar to that. Except then the tutorial ended, and suddenly the tone is shifting. So once the tutorial ends, we jump forward into the future 7 years. We are just moving back into the Danchi, and we're taking our grandmother, now wheelchair bound, out for a peaceful walk. And my first thought was how this is the natural course of aging, and perhaps we'll learn there's something timeless about imagination and memories. I still wasn't really expecting anything too much because I was like, okay, this is making sense. I had, I guess, preconceived notions, and I was like, oh, it's kind of sad. The grandmother doesn't really talk anymore. She seems a little confused. And then and then it got strange. Because I was foiled again as we encounter our childhood friend who seems to have lost that childlike wonder that he had in the tutorial. Stranger still is we get a new mechanic introduced to us. Keywords. And I have a lot of... I don't know how I feel about this one. These keyword searches yield further results about different things that our protagonist doesn't yet know about, which is kind of a cute concept and plays into that childlikeness of the game, except the first word we're looking up is dementia. This once again gave me a complete tonal shift of the game, and while the world still appears childlike, I was caught off guard by the concepts being shown in it. No, I'm not saying that kids can't be introduced to difficult concepts, but the one thing that struck me about this is that dementia ends up being a very much driving force to the entire plot of the game, because Hoshino's grandmother shows signs of recognition at the topic of the summer festival being brought back, and Hoshino, our main character, takes this as a sign that it will help her grandmother recover. And while this sentiment is really nice, it's not realistic. And before anyone comes for me about this being a game, I promise I know that. I'm not trying to say that games can't have any sort of wonder to them, but this is a very advanced concept for what felt like a children's game, and as I go on, still feels like a children's game. And as much as I would love the concept of this helping with the dementia, the reality of dementia is that it is incurable, and something slightly rubs me wrong about possibly leaving people thinking that if they do these things it can cure it. And I will link down below some resources about dementia, because it is a very difficult thing, and if you know someone with dementia, it can be very difficult, and both you and the affected person do deserve to have the resources and support to help understand this situation. It's very difficult, but let me get back into Danchi Days. Regardless of the tonal shift, I decided to keep playing to see what the demo had to offer and to try to decipher what kind of game Danchi Days really is. Because at the end of the day, I just wanted to understand who this game is for. Every other game I've ever played, it's very clear who the game is for, and this was the first time I was feeling like I did not know. And I continued to not know. Don't get me wrong, this game is so charming. I genuinely enjoyed all of the different minigames, and the neighbors that you meet are all quite quirky and they're really fun to converse with. Many of them have these home pages that offer more information, or they'll require you to participate in minigames to get to know them better. Again, I feel as though I'm playing a game that's meant for a child. In fact, as I go along, it feels more and more childish. While the names of the the names of your neighbors in the Danchi, I'm like, oh, haha, they're all kind of punny, plays on words. But then as I go to, I'm like, but these minigames are oddly simplistic, and the keyword thing is really strange because it's all terms that I feel like anyone over the age of 12 would know, but then I'm like, I don't feel like this is something kids under the age of 12 are playing. It's really throwing me for a loop even now. I'm so off script. Let me get back on script. The minigames are really simplistic, and they have about a single sentence to denote what you're trying to accomplish in each of them. And these minigames are relatively easy as well. I think there was only one time that I came close to failing because the directions were a tiny bit unclear. They're kind of vague, but then also kind of like easy to understand. It's very strange, and I am going to leave in a few of said minigames here for you guys to look at, and you can kind of see what I mean. Now that we've checked out the mini games, let me go into the characters. I found the characters really charming. Like I've said, all of their names are based on puns or plays on words that focus on a key characteristic about them. And while most of them are silly, some of them are longtime residents at the Danchi and remember the old days with Hoshino's grandmother. This leads me to flashback scenes that fill you with a longing for days that you haven't even experienced. It's a rather mature feeling and definitely one that would go over the head of a kid playing this game. Which again, I think you can have things that go over the head of a kid playing it, because like cartoons usually have that too, but it still kind of caught me off guard as I can't necessarily imagine a kid getting as much enjoyment out of it as an adult would, but I think an adult would be hard-pressed to find as much joy in it. And basically, to go over the story simply, is you have moved back to the Danchi and you want to restart the summer festival. You, along with all of the different people that you meet, you're trying to get everyone to RSVP to come to your summer festival. I do not know what is going to go beyond the RSVPs because I assume we're going to have to actually set up stands and do a whole bunch of other things, but the demo is just the first 2 days of the story. It gets you to invite at least 10 residents to the summer festival. I believe there are 13 available though, and this single day is jam-packed, and I found it to be almost overly full, and that did leave me wondering. I think it could be that less will happen in the full release of the game. You won't do 10 residents in a single day. I think the demo wanted to jam-pack it for you. And the reason that I found it to be a lot going on is because it's not just talking to the 10 residents. Many of them also have a mini game we have to do, some of them have a flashback, home pages to check out, and usually a simple like 2-step fetch quest, 1 to 2-step fetch quest. So given that each one of them has that, I think it made it feel very long, and I do hope that in the full release they cut that down a little bit, so maybe you just do 5 characters a day. I think that would feel less overwhelming. Like I said, context is everything, so if in the full release it makes more sense, I will happily rescind this point because perhaps we only get like a week to invite people, so maybe you do have to have that. Maybe, like, we don't know. There's a lot of maybes, and context is key. Danchi Days is a game that I enjoyed, but also a game that confused me. It felt almost too simple, like something I would have booted up for a long car ride on my Game Boy. Yet when faced with difficult topics like dementia or the heartstring-pulling flashback scenes, I also felt unsure. I'm not saying to take out those elements, and I'm not saying that kids can't have complicated things like that in their games, but to me personally, they felt very abrupt. Especially given that in that keyword, that's the first one you look up. I think it would have been better if we could have eased into that a little bit and maybe not had that be the first thing we look up. It felt so abrupt, and it interrupted that childlike wonder that the rest of the game seems so determined to showcase. So after all this, do I recommend this game that's taken me over half a year to finally play the demo of? And I will say, I do find it enjoyable. I do recommend it. But I think you have to be looking for a game like this. I think this game is really good for adults who are looking to bring back that childhood wonder. It fills you with nostalgia for experiences that you might not have even had, and I think that's a feat in and of itself. I did enjoy my first hour playing Danchi Days, and it's a game that I want to keep an eye on and I want to see how it develops before I fully commit to it. And we should be getting more of those developments soon because the game is set to release sometime in 2026. So I want to know where it's going and just how expansive this game is going to be in order to revitalize the summer festival. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed a video that was over half a year in the making, give it a like, leave a nice little comment, and maybe even subscribe so that you know every time I upload a new video. And with that being said, On to the next Steam Next Fest demo. Ready, steady, bye!